very important in the context of what you try to achieve is the role of the regulators. And in your list of participants, I didn't see the EMA mentioned and listed. And I was just wondering where they are, because I think they must be there. They are in intrinsic element of what you try to do. So where are they?
Okay. Dan, you'd be pleased to know that they are there. The nature of the interaction is that they prefer to be described as an advisor rather than a partner. So if you just look at the strict definition of the consortium and the partners in the consortium, we haven't listed them, but they are there and they've been involved in the various discussions and will continue to be. And indeed, several of the other agencies are involved, not necessarily specifically with EMTRAIN, but in the other projects. So you're right. The agencies play a critical role in any of these activities, and all of the education training projects have them involved, usually as an advisor or in some capacity within the consortium. But they're there.
Hi, I'm Nick Westwood from St Andrews University. I had two questions. First one is, within the infrastructures that you listed, are you talking to some of the newer infrastructures that have just recently been funded and going through the preparatory phase, such as EU Open Screen?
Let me open that one, answer that first, and then we'll come to your second one. The partnership that we have, the consortium that was set up with those 6 partners from the existing biomedical infrastructure. So that's the formal consortium. If we look at who we talk to in terms of external advice, what's happening in science, etc., then we can and do link into anybody else, but they're not formal partners in the consortium.
Okay, and my second point was on your description of new breed of drug developers, which I was quite interested in. Do you think the word flexibility is relevant in that description of the next generation of drug discovery people?
I think it's critical. I mean, as you've seen, I come from AstraZeneca, so my background is the industry. What we're seeing in the industry is a need for different models of drug development. The model that we've used for many years is no longer serving us well, and everyone recognizes we need to do things differently. The flexibility, some of the open innovation, looking at translational science, a whole series of other ways of addressing the best way in drug development is on the top of everyone's list in the industry. So flexibility is certainly very high up there.
And how are you planning on training that into the next generation?
Sorry,
how will you achieve that, the next generation being more flexible than the current one?
I think several ways. One is the knowledge and skills that they have need to be slightly different and reflect some of that new science, whether it's emerging science with stem cells or translational medicine and whatever. So there's an element of the actual knowledge or competency. There's another element, which is the culture, the way that they work in the cross-functional teams, the way they share information, the way you get around some of the traditional barriers which might have existed between discovery and development or development and marketing. And that is one of the main themes that you hear now in the industry, or indeed if you're looking at other people involved in research. And part of that flexibility can also be movement of people. So you can get people moving from academia to the industry, to the regulatory authorities, and indeed backwards and forwards, sharing that experience and having a better understanding of what's required. So there are many aspects of that sort of flexibility. They're all important, they're all difficult, we don't have them yet, but this will help to provide some of it.
Thank you very much.
Paradiso from the NCI in Bari, Italy, and chairman of the Working Education and Training Working Group of the European Organization of Cancer Institute. You know, one of the main areas for innovation and development of translational research and new drugs is oncology. Yeah. Do you think that there is room for a specific development of the pathway you design, you draw specifically disease-oriented? I mean, for example, according to one of the of a survey that we recently conducted among cancer institutes in Europe. Most part of the cancer education and education for oncologists is within cancer institutes. It's not in academy, because they are comprehensive cancer centers in which all the pathway from the basic research to translational to the bed of the patients to the follow-up, etc., is achievable. So is there room for a specific experience and cooperation for comprehensive cancer centers, for example, specifically for OECI within such a program, but also within the previous program one? The question is, the pathway can be oriented in a sense of disease-specific oriented pathway?
It's a difficult question to answer. I think there are certainly elements of oncology or any therapeutic area which are very specific, and within that therapeutic area there will always be that sort of professional scientific development, so whether that's oncology or cardiovascular or inflammatory disease. If we're looking more broadly at the drug development aspects of it, then you start to see many more similarities in terms of the stages that are necessary to use that science, to translate that science, to apply that science. And in that extent, oncology is very similar to some of the other areas. If you look again at oncology, then a lot of the modern aspects that we talk about for drug development, with biomarker development, with personalized medicines, certainly there are many examples now coming out of oncology. But we're also looking to do that in other areas. So I think the short answer is there is scope for oncology training for oncologists, which will come from specialist units. There is scope for broad drug development, which is independent of any particular therapy area. And there are some aspects of drug development which do focus in particular areas, and certainly oncology is one of those. I could also argue that some of the neuroscience developments have specific elements which are important to them. But if we look at it from the drug development point of view, we probably see more similarities across the areas and not necessarily just within one therapeutic area. I hope that answers your question.